This week on Jerusalem Dateline, how a UN agency facility was used to train Palestinian kids to wage holy war against Israel. And completing a modern-day exodus, thousands of Ethiopian Jews have come home to Israel. We were there when the final flight arrived. Plus, how our former ambassador is telling the truth about Israel. Hello and welcome to this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. I'm Chris Mitchell. We're coming to you just outside the famous Jaffa Gate. It's one of the main gateways into the old city of Jerusalem. And just about a 2-hour drive from here, you get to the Gaza Strip. Now imagine a summer camp down there that taught children to hate Jews and Christians and to wage holy war against them. Well, that's what happened with some Palestinian children recently. And not only that, it happened at a UN facility. And if you're an American taxpayer, your money might have helped fund it.
فلسطين عربية من المي للمية.
This clip comes from a 20-minute documentary exposing summer camps that encourage Palestinian children to violently take back their homes from Israel. The film also points to a connection between these camps and the United Nations. While these camps were not sponsored by the United Nations Relief Works Agency, or UNRWA, they were held at UNRWA facilities. Some say that makes the organization just as guilty.
لكن نيجي بنقعدهم إنه أنت إيش بلدك إيش بلدك إيش بلدك.
إحنا من حيفا. من يافا.
بصير انتماء أكثر للطفل. يعني بصير الأطفال هنا يعني إحنا ما بيخلي يعني حتى الآن صار الولد عند الطفل أو البنت إنه صارت كتير متشوقة ترجع لبلدها الأصلي المعروف الممول الأونروا.
Filmmaker David Bedeen also points out that this UN agency is funded by the U.S. taxpayers and international community.
The director of UNRWA was in our office several years ago and explained that everything happening in the UNRWA facility goes on with the permission and authorization of UNRWA.
واحنا على البحر قاعدين مبسوطين احنا والعيله وجايبين الناس على البحر، اجى الديب. ومين هذا الديب؟ اليهود. صح اليهود ديب؟ شو عملوا لنا؟ شو عملوا اليهود فينا؟ طرونا وشردونا وقتلونا وطخوا اهالينا.
UNRWA takes care of millions of Palestinian refugees. In fact, the Palestinians are the only refugee group with its own separate UN agency. A spokesman told CBN News that UNRWA was not involved in the camps.
It isn't an UNRWA summer camp. It has absolutely nothing to do with UNRWA.
Further investigation shows that UNRWA allowed a third party to use the facility for the camps. Israel says UNRWA is still responsible.
They acknowledge that this happened, and they've discontinued relations with a third party who was using their facilities.
Foreign Ministry spokesman Paul Hershen says the West and the world should still be concerned.
And it's not the first time it's happening in UNRWA facilities. Even if it's not UNRWA itself who's doing it, you know, it's my money and your money. It's taxpayer money that's funding them, and you would think that perhaps they would be able to vet the organizations that they are allowing into their facilities.
UNRWA does not get money from the United Nations. It gets money from 38 democracies. The leading ones are the United States and the European Union.
At the end of the day, this kind of violent brainwashing is not helpful to anybody.
While Israel's enemies plot its destruction, the Jewish state continues its mission to provide a safe haven to any Jew who wants to live here. That story leads off our weekly news wrap-up. It's one of the world's oldest Jewish communities, reaching back to King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba.
Today, we are witnessing history taking place. The historic return of the last remaining remnants of Jewish Ethiopians into our Jewish homeland.
450 immigrants from Ethiopia arrived in Israel courtesy of Operation Dove's Wings. It's the final in a series of organized mass immigrations from that country over the last 3 decades.
It's really like closing a circle. 30 years of operation after operation, of wonderful immigration that bring Ethiopian Jews to Israel.
Panina Tamano Shata is the first Ethiopian-born woman to become an Israeli Knesset member. She arrived in Israel on Operation Shlomo in 1991.
I came in that operation at age 3, and this time I returned to Ethiopia as a Knesset member. I'm very proud of this.
Since 1948, the Jewish agency responsible for immigration helped more than 90,000 Ethiopians immigrate to Israel. Karen Hayasod raised much of the funds.
One of the basic missions of us as Jews and of the State of Israel is to gather the exiles, the Jewish exiles here in Israel.
The first waves of immigration brought Ethiopian Jews known as Beta Israel, who had kept their Jewish religion and tradition for generations. Other Ethiopian Jews, known as Falashmora, adopted Christian practices or assimilated into society. When they wanted to come, Israel had to determine if they were eligible. And there's still a debate.
And that's what they are. They're brothers, they're family.
For the last 3 years, the Jewish agency ran a community center in Gondar, Ethiopia. It provided social and welfare services, plus educational, language, and Judaism instruction to prepare the returnees for their homecoming.
They have a wonderful history, a rich culture, but they grew up in villages. They grew up removed from 20th century Western civilization as we know it.
Rabbi Ari Abramowitz says it's like a family reunion.
We have Jews that have been separated from each other for 2,000 years. Imagine a family reunion after a 2,000-year summer camp. We come back with all of the different cultures and perspectives and values, and we're in this little land surrounded by enemies that want to wipe us out.
Even though this marks the end of mass immigration from Ethiopia, the Jewish agency will still help those eligible to immigrate. And Abramowitz says there's more work to be done.
But there's plenty of Jews around the world who we have to still bring back, so there's a lot more work to do.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Ben Gurion Airport, Tel Aviv, Israel.
Bringing these long-lost people home to Israel is just the first step in their journey. Many of them need help adapting to moving from a third world to a first world society. That's where Operation Blessing Israel steps in.
For many Jewish families in Ethiopia, returning to their ancestral homeland of Israel is nothing more than a distant dream.
I have wanted to go to Israel for a long time, maybe 15 or 16 years.
Diane works as a day laborer while his wife Atakene takes care of the house. They both grew up as orphans, but are doing their best to be good parents to their 3 children. Without help, they could never afford to move to Israel. So Operation Blessing is helping this family and dozens of others make the long journey from Ethiopia to Israel.
I'm nervous and excited. I'm going into the unknown, so I have butterflies in my stomach.
Once relocated, these families will still need support.
One of the things we want to do is help them to assimilate into Israel's society. They're coming from an area where there's no running water, where there's electricity is very minimal. But Israel is a first world country, and we're going to help them with their whole process of learning a new culture and learning how to live in Israel. It's one of the key things to the success of a family, making it in Israel.
We traveled with the families to the Ethiopian capital of Addis Ababa. We flew with them all the way to Israel and were there when they arrived in Tel Aviv. After many generations, these families were finally home. In northern Ethiopia, they lived quiet lives in small villages. But suddenly in the city of Haifa, Israel, life was very different.
I never saw so many cars before in my entire life. When we got married in Ethiopia, I didn't have anything, not even something to sit on in the house. Now we have everything we need, even chairs. I'm not an educated man, but now I have the chance to learn how to read and write. We are very grateful to you for helping us get all these things.
With the help and support of Operation Blessing, Diane's family will spend a full year in a relocation center. Here they'll learn Hebrew, study Jewish culture, and make plans for the future.
My dream is to be a good father and to give my children the things I never had.
And because of Operation Blessing, Diane's dreams are coming true.
We never would have had these opportunities without you, so we are all very grateful.
And to learn how you can work with Operation Blessing, just go to our website at cbnnews.com. A retired Israeli army officer was murdered in a string of terror attacks against Israelis. Soraya Ofer was bludgeoned and stabbed to death outside his home in the northern Jordan Valley.
Unfortunately, this has been the third terrorist-related attack within the last 2 weeks, and our security assessments are continuing at the moment as the hunt for the suspects continues.
Last week, a 9-year-old girl miraculously survived a shooting outside her home in a community in Samaria near Ramallah. Well, Israel hopes a possible U.S. decision to cut aid to Egypt won't harm the historic peace accord between the two neighbors. Israeli ministers said their relations remain as close as ever, and they continue to cooperate in military and political spheres. The U.S. is considering cutting hundreds of millions in aid to Egypt. It's a response to the military's ouster of Muslim Brotherhood President Mohamed Morsi in July. The passing of an influential spiritual leader brought the biggest funeral in the history of Jerusalem. More than 10% of the Israeli population, some 800,000 people, came to the capital for the funeral of Rabbi Ovadiah Yosef. Yosef, who was 93, was seen by his supporters as a revered sage. He was a spiritual leader of Israel's Sephardic Jews from North Africa and Arab nations. He transformed that downtrodden community into a powerful force in Israeli politics. As a spiritual leader of the Shas political party, Yosef wielded influence over all Israelis. Well, coming up, fighting the war in the court of public opinion, how Israel is using social media to win over hearts and minds.
Hi, my name is Breda. I'm just your typical 9-year-old. I love singing, dancing, reading, discovering the simple truth. My grandpa says you're never too young or old to learn the value of a dollar. He taught me the true value of this paper dollar. You see this little gold coin? It says $1 on it. But guess what? That was a long time ago. Today, this gold dollar is worth over 100 paper dollars. This paper dollar is now only worth 1 penny compared to America's former money, the gold dollar. My grandpa says the only money worth saving today is real money, gold or silver coins. He's pretty smart. How our paper dollars lost their value, he says. It's all explained in a new book, The Great Debasement. It's easy and fun to read. If you call the number on the screen, I will send you a copy totally free. Next time, I will explain the simple truth about money.
Help! If an emergency happened right now, you can have help at the push of a button with Medical Alert.
Remember when I took that fall, Mary?
Oh, yes, that was terrible.
Yes, it was.
Help!
And I thought, what if you hadn't been there? I ordered my Medical Alert the next day.
I can't describe how safe I feel now with my Medical Alert. You didn't know I was wearing it, did you?
Medical Alert is easy to install, waterproof, and covers you inside your home and out.
It helps me feel safe from fires, break-ins.
And of course, a Medical Alert. And if you don't have a home phone, don't worry. They have that covered.
There's always help at the push of a button. Don't wait till you need it.
Get Medical Alert for less than $1 a day. There are no long-term contracts. Order now and get your second button free. Call for your free brochure.
For your free Medical Alert system with second button free, call 800-575-8507.
For decades, Israel's enemies have tried to destroy the Jewish state using war and terror. Now they're using another tactic, delegitimizing Israel's right to exist. Former Israeli ambassador to the U.S., Danny Ayalon, is combating that disinformation with the truth about Israel, using social media tools and encouraging others to join in.
Sometimes I'm asked, Danny, what makes Jerusalem so special? Join me to find the answer. Some say it's the unique archaeology and thousands of years of history that you can feel in almost every step that you take. Every stone tells a story. Perhaps this is where the kings of Israel were once anointed. Some people love Jerusalem because despite its age and history, it is a vibrant modern city. As a matter of fact, in Jerusalem, we do not only enjoy technology, we also create it. The spiritual center of Jerusalem, considered holy by billions of believers worldwide, is the Temple Mount. Easily recognizable by the golden dome of the rock. Historically, it was first consecrated by the people of Israel. The great Jewish temple was built here by King Solomon 3,000 years ago, in the place believed by many to be the center of the universe and the gateway connecting heaven and earth.
We sat down with Ambassador Ayalon to talk more about his campaign, The Truth About Israel. Ambassador Ayalon, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure, Chris.
This Truth About Israel, what is that?
Well, the Truth About Israel is a non-profit organization which I founded based on my experience and knowledge from the foreign ministry and my career in the government that Israel faces a PR campaign against it, campaign of delegitimization, and we are few against many. You have 22 Arab countries, 57 Muslim countries that are continuing to smear Israel and delegitimize it. There are others who do it as well. So we have to set the record straight. And what we do in The Truth About Israel is empower and educate Israelis and lovers and supporters of Israel abroad, Jewish communities, Christian communities, that they can get the information, can get the content and technique and use it themselves. Everyone can work for Israel, whether through the social media, through their friends, and this is the idea, to be a powerhouse that empowers others to defend Israel, I think for the best interest, not of just Israel, but also of the United States and the Israeli-American alliance.
And how well has it gone so far?
It's been tremendous, and we have millions who have been watching us on the YouTube, and I would encourage any of your viewers to watch. It's very easy. It's The Truth About Israel, one word, .org, .il, and they can learn a lot from it.
Until 1917, the Ottoman Empire occupied the whole region. After losing in World War I, the Ottomans relinquished their 500-year control to the Allied forces, which decided to divide the old empire into countries. Britain's foreign minister, Lord Balfour, recognized the Jewish people's historical right to their homeland. A small area, equivalent to about 0.5% of the Middle East, was designated for this purpose. Britain received a mandate from the League of Nations to promote the establishment of a Jewish homeland. But wait a second, do you realize what happened? The Jewish homeland originally included not only the West Bank, but also the East Bank of the Jordan River. I guess you cannot say the Jewish people have not accepted some painful compromises already.
Up next, he was a rising star in the political party of anti-Semites until he had a shocking conversation with his 94-year-old grandmother. Hear what she told him when we come back.
Attention sleep apnea patients. Are you tired of the expense and hassle of getting your CPAP and BiPAP supplies? Are you fed up with dealing with ill-fitting, leaking, or worn-out masks and straps? Are you worried about the effects that unsanitary tubes, cushions, and filters have on your health? If you said yes to any of these questions, Allied Medical Supply Network has the solution to your problems. You could qualify to have your supplies regularly delivered right to your door at little or no cost to you. That's right, no more inconvenience, no worn-out masks and straps, no more unsanitary equipment, just restful sleep. Call Allied Medical Supply Network today to determine if you may qualify to receive your fresh, brand-name supplies at little or no cost. Don't delay. Call us now to see if you are eligible to save money on regular delivery of your CPAP and BiPAP supplies. Call 1-800-815-9947. That's 1-800-815-9947. Or go to cpapsupplyhelpline.com.
announcing an important breakthrough in healthcare that can benefit everyone. If you or anyone you love needs affordable health insurance, regardless of a pre-existing medical condition, call Quick Insurance 123 today and get the immediate relief you deserve. Quick Insurance 123 was created to provide affordable health insurance to all uninsured Americans, with or without pre-existing conditions. This is not a discount card. This is a real insurance program that lets you choose from many affordable health plans, with access to doctors, hospitals, emergency services, and more. So call the number on your screen now and get the health coverage you need, just for calling. As a special bonus, we'll send you a free prescription savings card that could save you up to 85% on your prescriptions. That's right, you could save up to 85% on your prescriptions just for calling. Call Quick Insurance 123 to find out how you can get affordable health insurance and receive your free prescription savings card just for calling. Don't wait. Getting a free quote is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Call today.
Welcome back. Imagine one day, out of the blue, you discover you're not the person you thought you were. In fact, you find out you're the very thing that you hate. This is what happened to one man in Budapest. Dale Hurd has the story of this man's crisis and his amazing transformation.
He was once a rising star in one of Hungary's largest and most controversial political parties, Jobbik. Jobbik has been labeled fascist and anti-Semitic. Csanád Szegedy, still in his 20s, was on a trajectory to lead this party someday.
I joined Jobbik in 2003 when the party foundations were being built. I was a member for 9 years. I was vice president for 6 years and in the European Parliament since 2009.
Szegedy has also been branded an anti-Semite, although in our interview he disagreed.
When I entered Jobbik, I was kind of indifferent toward Jews. I didn't care about Jews. I didn't care about the Holocaust. I didn't consider the Holocaust as a tragedy for the Hungarian people. I read a lot of anti-Semitic literature.
Still, Szegedy was a leader of a party almost universally labeled anti-Semitic, and his public statements showed that at the very least, he still didn't like Jews and was suspicious of them. But that would all change when Csanád Szegedy would learn something about himself that turned his world upside down. Csanád Szegedy was a Jew. Rumors had begun swirling on the internet that Szegedy had Jewish roots, so he went to talk with his 94-year-old grandmother, who had never said she was Jewish.
And she opened up and she talked about her life and how she was sent to Auschwitz and how our whole family was annihilated.
How did this change your view of the Holocaust?
I was shocked. First of all, because I realized the Holocaust really happened.
Not sure what he should do next, he first tried to hide his Jewishness and act like nothing had happened, but eventually realized he could not stay in Jobbik.
I realized I can't take part in any organization that has anything to do with anti-Semitism.
So what do you do when you discover that you are one of the very things that you hated? For Csanád Szegedy, you change. Szegedy contacted local rabbi Shlomo Koves, who first thought it was a joke.
When we met first with Csanád, I had a very mixed feelings because from one hand, I was sitting across somebody that was seen for years as one of the main figures of the Jobbik party. From the other hand, I was sitting across a person, a broken person who has realized what he has done and who has become to a situation where he figured he has to change, but he still doesn't know how to change.
Csanád started attending synagogue and admits that at first some members treated him like a leper and would literally leave the synagogue when he walked in. But some befriended him and he started taking classes at the synagogue, learning Hebrew and the meaning of kosher and Shabbat. How much of your life has changed since you learned that you're a Jew?
It's changed everything. It's like being reborn, and the changes in my life are still happening. I had this value system until I was 30, and I had to admit that it was all wrong and had to find the will to change.
One of the high points of his new life was traveling this year to Israel with his wife and visiting the Holocaust Museum and the Wailing Wall.
When I landed in Israel, airport security asked me a lot of questions. And when the guard asked me, "Are you a Jew?" then for the first time in my life, I could say, Yes.
What has it been like learning how to be Jewish?
Just to feel like you're on the right way spiritually and you can get closer to God, it's a whole new feeling for me that I'm doing the right thing. My life has been full of incredible miracles, but I believe everyone who chooses the way of God sees miracles.
Dale Hurd, CBN News in Budapest, Hungary.
Coming up, take a ride with us to see Jerusalem from the air.
Grace, music is unpredictable.
I know I have what it takes.
The Dove Foundation raves. Grace Unplugged is remarkable and inspiring. This is not about the music, it's about everything else that goes with it.
Dad, were you watching me?
A moving and meaningful film.
This book, his words shook me. It was like my whole world.
That parents and teens should see together, says Focus on the Family.
What are you gonna do? You're gonna drag her back home?
Yeah, I might. I think maybe you're fighting God. Just stop running.
Grace Unplugged, rated PG, now playing.
If you had a choice between going bald and a full head of hair, which would you choose? Advances in medical science have resulted in the world's first and only permanent solution to hair loss.
Yes!
You wash it, you cut it. It's your own real, naturally growing hair. When it comes to hair restoration, no one in the world has more experience than Bosley. The results look completely natural and are affordable on nearly any budget. But the entire process can't be explained in 60 brief seconds. So to find out more about this clinically proven and permanent solution to hair loss, call now to receive your free no-obligation information kit. It'll answer all of your questions about hair loss and hair restoration. Plus, we'll also send you this $250 gift certificate just for calling. Every day you wait, you're losing more hair. So don't put it off any longer. You owe it to yourself to find out the facts. Choose hair. Choose Bosley.
Call 800-868-9957. That's 800-868-9957.
Grace, music is unpredictable.
I know I have what it takes.
The Dove Foundation raves. Grace Unplugged is remarkable and inspiring. This is not about the music, it's about everything else that goes with it.
Dad, were you watching me?
A moving and meaningful film.
This book, his words shook me. It was like my whole world.
That parents and teens should see together, says Focus on the Family.
What are you gonna do? You're gonna drag her back home?
Yeah, I might. I think maybe you're fighting God. Just stop running.
Grace Unplugged, rated PG, now playing.
We're standing here with the walls of Jerusalem behind us. But what is it like to see Jerusalem from the air? Here's a look. Well, that's it for this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. I'm Chris Mitchell. We'll see you next time, right here in Jerusalem.